It's gonna come out great. All right, it says you're live.
All right.
Right at 7 too. All right, I'm gonna see. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, sweet. We may get some people, we may not, but hopefully they'll watch the replay. Try to catch it at a time where people are off work. So anyway, my name's Tim Trevathan with Tim Trevathan Homes. You guys have been following me for a while. Looks like we got 4 people live. Okay. This is Sam Mauldin.
What's up?
With TrueWay Mortgage. He is a good friend of mine and lender partner, great business partner. We've been working together. He's helped many of my home buyers with their loans, and they're very much happy homeowners now, thanks to him. So I thought I'd bring him along so we could talk about the state of the market. There's a lot's been changing. The market continues to change. Crazy stuff in the news that I think it'd be good to address. And
lots of
also by adding value to those that are viewing, just kind of talk about our local market as well. I could share about, some of my buyer transactions, how they've been, where people were buying, are you able to get a discount in this city? The market's shifting. Is it true, Tim? Can I get discounts or not? So we'll hit on that. But maybe kind of share maybe just a little bit about your background first. And then
I've been in the mortgage business for about 11 years now. It's actually a family-owned operation. My wife, Anisha, and myself kind of own our own brokerage, and love helping people get into homes. Love helping give them good, solid guidance, and honestly, just treating people like we would want to be treated in their shoes. That's the big thing for us. Yeah.
Sweet. Nice. Well, we can dive into a list of questions we got here. What do we have here?
Let's bring this forward.
All right.
There we go.
So, I guess just on the lending side, what are you seeing with your clients on the lending side here in Metro Atlanta? Just in general, what like any trends, any just things that kind of surprise you as the market's changing? Have you seen that on the lending side?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I'm noticing right now is that buyers definitely have the upper hand now compared to, it's a stark contrast with the COVID era where you had like 50 offers on one home. Now buyers, I finally feel, as a general rule, because depends on where you're trying to buy. Some places are a little bit more competitive than others, but buyers kind of have the upper hand in negotiating. Definitely seller concessions are a lot more frequently seen on contracts now. And negotiations, even like with price reductions and things like that, the tables have turned quite a bit, I would say. That's probably the biggest thing I've noticed.
Yeah. I would say the same. Lower offer prices getting accepted, bigger concessions on closing costs, even more so. Well, of course, from the initial offer when it's accepted, and then the second time we negotiate again during inspection, they get more.
Yeah, that's really common as well. Yeah.
What's like one of your biggest concessions you've seen so far?
Oh man, don't take this as like this is going to happen for everyone. we saw one that was like $24,000.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, it was hefty.
Yeah. I think 9 years in the business, my biggest credit was $20,000.
Really?
Yeah, and that was only one time in 9 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was on a house that needed a new roof, a new liner for a swimming pool. Crawl space had mold that needed to be remediated.
Yeah. So they weren't just doing that, the goodness of their heart. There's a reason.
Right, there's a reason, yeah. But in some cases now I feel like they're doing it because it's like a real deal concession that's needed to cover repairs.
Yeah.
But in another way, in another sense, it's like you ask and sometimes you just receive because they're scared that you're going to terminate the contract. I've seen that happen now where and I saw a statistic, I don't know if you know this, but like the termination rate in America is now like at an all-time high in like the last, I think 5-6 years, and it's like 20%.
Oh wow.
And
I didn't know that.
And then Metro Atlanta is the high. Well, sorry, I take it back. It's 15%. Metro Atlanta is the highest at 20%.
Wow. Okay.
And the last 18 months, I would say my personal rate of termination has been around 25%.
Really? That checks out with me too, man. From what I see, we see a lot of contracts that come in. People get into the inspections, and I guess that would kind of go along with the question, the same question.
Yeah,
is I feel like buyers overall can be a little bit pickier, and they are being a little bit pickier as well. So if
They can afford to.
yeah, so if it doesn't really check, enough boxes for them, they'll just go on to the next.
Yeah, totally.
We're seeing that.
If anybody's watching, all three of you beautiful people, feel free to leave a comment in the chat. You can say hi, or if you have a question, even better, we'd be able to help answer that. So there's been a lot in the news in the last week, a lot of crazy things. It seems like just one after the other. And I know the big thing in the news has been this 50-year mortgage.
Oh, yeah.
What is this about? Do you think it's a good idea or a bad idea? Where do you see this going?
I'm not against there being a 50-year option for people if that's what they want to choose. What I will say is it's 99% not going to move the needle for most people. Just when we went from a 15-year mortgage to a 30-year mortgage, which was well before I was ever born, but that improved affordability or mortgage payments somewhere between 25 to 30%. This, if you 8% best case is how much it actually improves payments, but that's assuming the interest rate doesn't go up for a longer term, which inevitably will. So there are some scenarios where maybe it doesn't even actually make the payment lower. And there's so many unknowns about it. Like who knows what else comes along with that. And I know it's just ideas. And I think it's almost like marketing hype at this point. And I don't know how much of a tangible difference it'll really make. For the whole premise is to increase affordability for people, right? Mm-hmm. That's the whole reason I don't really think it does that. It doesn't. Can it be an option for some people? Sure. And maybe for some person it could be the right option. It's hard for me to envision that, but that's my take on that.
So playing devil's advocate, I follow a lot of real estate coaches, people on X, the platform. They got tons of people sharing their opinions, and it seems like predominantly most of the people are against it, but then a couple are for it, and they give interesting takes. One is a real estate coach, and he says that with the 50-year mortgage, that'll get more people to buy, and therefore, I guess, have more to choose from. Can't remember exactly what he's saying. We were talking about last week. Do you remember?
Yeah. It could make it to where it causes more people enter into the market. I think kind of under false pretenses. Honestly, I don't really know how much it actually help, which it actually potentially drive prices up, which would actually potentially not help affordability. Is what.
So it's like maybe a short-term relief, but then it becomes a long-term pain.
Yeah, I think best case these things are a Band-Aid. That's
the other devil's advocate approach I would ask you is one person said online everything was a 15-year mortgage at the beginning, and then went to 30. And people were saying, "Oh no, this is terrible for society. This is terrible for the real estate market." And they were saying that going from 15 to 30, but then now everybody has embraced the 30-year mortgage.
Yeah.
So then why is there so much pushback against the 50-year if it's just another option?
I'll kind of respond back. Inevitably, at some point, there's a breaking point to where all right, this ceases really to be beneficial. And if I just took the mortgage term out of it, back in the 30s, I think is when they announced the 30-year mortgage. And you said, all right, we're going to reduce mortgage payments by 25 to 30%. And this is going to be a game changer. I don't think anyone would have balked at that. Oh yeah, how are you going to do that now? All right, let me introduce you to the 30-year mortgage. But now, if someone comes in, you're like, hey, we're going to reduce mortgage payments 0 to 8%, and it's going to be a game changer. People look at you cross-eyed okay, and you're going to increase the term by 20 years versus an additional 15. Yeah. And I think the 50-year loan is kind of, we've crossed that threshold. Okay, it's law of diminishing returns.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the
I know 50-year mortgage can be higher interest rate, most likely, right?
More than likely.
And then you're probably going to die with debt to still owe. And I know there's the argument, well, nobody lives in a home for 50 years, much less 30 years. But still think it defeats the purpose of having. You want to be free of your mortgage eventually.
Yeah, I mean, most people don't stay, and most people end up like refinancing eventually. Like I get all that, and then they end up selling their home. But I mean, there's a lot of risk for people too, because although over time real estate values go up, and I believe that will very much be the case, going forward. If you find yourself maybe like in a year, like now, like say you did buy a 50-year home with a 50-year mortgage with a minimal down payment, and home values kind of decline slightly, and something changes in your life to where you need to like move or whatever. I mean, it's not going to be much different than a 30-year in terms of like most of it's going to interest, but I mean, you're not paying. There's a few different mechanisms of you gaining equity in your home. Home appreciation and principal pay down. That's just basically not happening for the first several years on a 50-year mortgage, or maybe like even like the first few decades.
Yeah. Yeah, really. I think somebody was here. Is this Anisha?
I don't know. It could be. Yeah.
Somebody's adding a question. I think it's Anisha.
Yeah, I think it's my wife. She hopped on.
Would it be comparable or an alternative to a loan modification?
That's a good. It would be similar to some loan modifications, but loan modifications, I think what they end up doing is putting. They all can be different, but a lot of them will take a chunk of what's owed and put it on the back end of the loan, where it's kind of due as a balloon whenever the loan is paid off. And so I think it'll be different in that regard, but and a lot of people get surprised by it because they kind of conveniently forget about it until they actually have to sell their home and they find out they have this extra $50,000 that's owed that they forgot about. But I think, I don't think there'd be some similarities and some differences. I'll say it that way.
Cool. What about this other news that came up in the last week? Portable loans. Is that going to be any different than a 50-year mortgage in terms of being advantageous to the buyer?
Again, I think that's mostly hype. I'm all for it being a thing for sure. It is very similar to assumable mortgages, if you've heard of those, which those are what you can do on government-backed loans, but you can't carry it with you. That's where the seller basically you're able to take over the seller's mortgage, which sounds great in theory, because especially people during COVID era, getting the 2 to 3% interest rates, that sounds great until you realize, okay, you have to make up the difference between what's owed on that mortgage and what you're buying the new home for. That's usually the biggest deal breaker. Maybe that could be less of a deal breaker if someone's taken their mortgage with them, because presumably they would have equity from the sale of their home. So maybe, but again, who it's designed to help is it's to increase affordability. I would think it's kind of maybe not saying it, but insinuated first-time home buyers. That doesn't help first-time home buyers. They have no mortgage to port over.
Exactly.
So
So I feel like, if you're a pre-existing homeowner, you already own your house, and you got a 3% rate that you bought from 2019, it would make sense to utilize that portable loan option if they had it. But for first-time home buyers, you're buying whatever the market rate is. If it's 6.1% or 6.3 like it is now, and you want to use a portable loan, well, tough luck. You can't even use it. I was reading online, and one person said that it could be, I guess, useful in the sense that when there is more homes to choose from, that first-time home buyer can then pick what they want. So I guess it's good in that regard.
I mean, I guess the theory is it would move some of the people off the fence who are trying to hold on to their low mortgage rates and to free up some inventory. But again, I don't know. I think it's mostly hype. Is what it is.
And one thing I want to mention, you had told me about the 50-year mortgage. Going back to that, as you said, there technically already are 40-year mortgages, right?
Yeah, those already exist. There's 40-year mortgages that are interest only at the first 10 years. I mean, they're just not your traditional loan products that already exist. And
so in a sense, if it's already around to be used, but people are not using them, people are not talking about it, then how is a 50-year going to be, any more attractive, right?
Yeah.
If people are not using the 40-year as much as you would hope or think.
Yeah, I mean, unless the interest rates, they're doing something with the interest rates to make them where they're at least the same, or I don't know what the incentive would make them less. That's just unrealistic. But what we've had people that have asked about like 40-year mortgages, and they tend to be more like investment loans. But when they actually look at the numbers and they see the mortgage payments are not really any different than just a 30-year,
yeah,
they're like, what's the point? Because the interest rates tend to be a little bit higher.
Right.
And so like it's more cons without the pros.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other big news that came this past week was this, I guess, no credit limit on certain loan types. And I guess
they're removing the minimum required credit score of the hard 620 for conventional loans.
Gotcha.
Fannie Mae.
So again, 580 is the minimum for other loan types, right?
Actually, so 580 is the minimum to only put down 3.5% on an FHA loan. FHA will actually let you go down to 500 if you put down a larger down payment. Technically, because what ends up happening in reality is usually if your credit score is down there, they want some really big compensating factors. Like you may have lower credit, but they want to see that you have very low debt to income ratio, very large down payment, extra money in the bank as reserves before they're going to issue an approval. And so I think the same thing is going to apply here. Why they might technically be removing that minimum credit score requirement, I think from a practical standpoint, it's not really going to, there'll be a few people that helps here and there, but by and large, I don't think for the vast majority of people, that's going to make a tangible difference. That's, yeah. I feel like I'm being like a joy kill or killjoy or whatever. Yeah.
Hey, if anything, we're giving them a reality check. We're letting them know what actually does work. You just keep doing what we're doing, and not try to introduce these crazy products. I'm all for change. Don't get me wrong, and I'm sure you are too. But it's just has to make sense.
I'm not against any of those things coming into the marketplace or anything. I'm all for it. What I'm against is giving a false precedent that, hey, this is going to be the thing that makes homes affordable for everyone. Like, I don't, that's not going to solve the issue.
Going on, there's this topic about appraisal waivers that I like to touch on because we've been experiencing that some. Not just necessarily that the appraisal waiver is happening, but what is the consumer's reaction to it that I find interesting. At least the ones that we've worked with. And I think I've had more to be against it than for it in the last 12 months than in the previous 5 years before that. And first, let's define what an appraisal waiver is. I guess an appraisal waiver you could say is the typical traditional appraisal process to get an appraisal value on the home is bypassed, and basically through research of the homes around, through the down payment of the buyer, it can more often than not be waived. So they don't have to pay their appraisal fee. That's what, $500. You don't have to, the timeline is shorter, so you don't have to worry about your appraisal contingency or reaching that deadline because it's already waived. And it's been appraised. That's what you want. You want it appraised. But why would a buyer be thinking not to accept an appraisal waiver?
I just think a general misunderstanding of what it is. That's super real estate jargon, appraisal waiver. Who would ever use that terminology in everyday language? So just thinking through what it is. A lender requires an appraisal to make sure that the home is actually worth what you're purchasing it for, because they want to make sure that the collateral that they're lending against is worth that. So appraisal waiver is issued when there's enough supporting data, along with a couple of other factors, but when there's enough supporting publicly available information or in Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac's database to say, okay, we're really confident that the value is there, and then that the purchase price is supported by the comps that we have access to. Could be that there was a previous appraisal done on that home that maybe fell through as well. That's in their database as well. That's another thing. And then they'll look at that combined with, okay, is the income good? Is the credit good? How much of a down payment are they putting down? And so they're only going to issue an appraisal waiver if there's an abundance of data to suggest that the value is worth, that it actually is worth what it's worth.
So when you say data, for example, like just more sold homes, comparable units within the neighborhood.
Yeah. It'll either be like actual sold homes that are similar, that would be justifiable comps, or like I said, it could actually be an actual appraisal that was done on that home previously as well. That's just in Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac's database.
I mean, I did a refinance last week, thanks to Sam, and got an appraisal waiver because I had bought the home just a year ago. So it was recent and it was a previous appraisal, and be able to use that as corroborating data and help with getting the waiver.
Yeah.
So the buyers that I've worked with that said, we don't really want a waiver, I had to ask them why that is. And I would say it was generally the same answer for all of them. And that is that they thought, well, what if it appraises for less?
Yeah.
And that means I pay less for the home, which means less down payment and a smaller mortgage every month. Except there's a big caveat. That's with the assumption that you think the seller is going to lower it.
Yeah.
But they're not.
Yeah.
Or not what you think, not as far as the probability. And the reason why is because you've got a contingency where they could say no, you don't want to agree to the lower price. You can back out, get your earnest money back in full without penalty. And they may be okay with that because they believe their home's worth more, and they're going to wait until they get that home sold for the price that they want.
Yeah.
Other thing that I've noticed too in the market in general, but it's tied to appraisal waivers, is there's a lot more homes in America now that have more equity than ever before.
Yeah.
I think it's some crazy number. I think it's like 40% are paid off.
Yeah.
And then 60% with like 50% equity.
It's a surprising number for sure.
So because of that, I think some of these sellers, they're like, well, we're not in a rush to sell necessarily. We believe our home's worth this, and we can afford to wait because we already have a lot of equity, that they're just waiting for that appraisal to come along. So I think after explaining it to the buyers, like, hey, yes, you could try to negotiate and ask for a lower price. Most likely they won't. Then it makes sense to go ahead and accept the appraisal waiver.
I think too, I mean, again, the appraisal waiver is not going to be issued unless there's a lot of supporting comps, that's actually what it's worth at least. So you're paying $500 to $700, depending on the cost of the appraisal, on the small chance that the appraisal would actually come in less, so you could try to negotiate. So you're guaranteeing that you're going to pay more on the hopes that possibly you might pay less. And so I just think that's and I think when you explain it and with the buyers, we've explained it too, that usually like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I think it's just a lack of understanding when you explain it that way, like, oh, okay, yeah.
Well, the other thing that I fear for my buyers, I try to protect them the best I can, but I fear that, well, let's say if they don't accept the appraisal waiver, it comes in lower. Yeah, the contingency allows them to back out, get their earnest money back. But what if it was their dream home? What if they saw 40 homes in 7 months and this was the home, and then now they realize that the home that they bought for $650,000 is now worth $625,000. Seller's not going to budge. You waived the appraisal, or you didn't accept the appraisal waiver, and so now you're going to have to come out of pocket that $25,000 to continue with the purchase of that home. Yes, you can back out, but once again, maybe you're in that small category of people who are like, it took me a long time to find the right home, and this is it. This is my dream home, and now you're having to pay the consequences.
Yeah.
So haven't run into that yet, but
I hope you don't.
Yeah, that would be brutal.
Yeah.
But that's good. Good to talk about that. Another question. All right, here we go. Here's my favorite question, I think, and I think this is a question that everybody would ask. So y'all gotta pay attention to this one. But basically, is now a good time to buy? I think everybody hears that question. Why should a buyer buy a home now as opposed to later? Why should we be waiting? Or, obviously we shouldn't dwell on the past. I should have bought one at such and such time of the year. Why, should we buy now? And if so, why?
As a general rule, yeah. And of course you're going to think like I'm biased, but I think overall trying to time the market is kryptonite. for affordability. I think the odds are so much against you historically the longer you wait. And yeah, I'll kind of circle back around to that with some of the other stuff we'll discuss a little bit. But I think now is great because you have so many sellers are much more willing to negotiate. If you're just talking about timing of the year, this is a great time of the year to get out there and try to purchase homes because it slows down. So they're even more willing to negotiate now. And yeah, if and when the market's conditions improve with as far as interest rates, you should be able to take advantage of that. And then I forgot my last point on where I was going with that, but that by itself is enough. Yeah.
I would say from a realtor standpoint, just using some clients as examples, like why is now a good time to buy? Well, just look at the client that bought a house in Brazelton. She got 10,000 under asking and another 10,000 in closing costs. Nice. I had another buyer in Duluth that bought a house for 15,000 below with 10,000 closing costs, an additional 5,000 on top of that during negotiations. By the way, the one in Brazelton was a new construction, which typically new construction builders never discount the price.
Yeah.
What you see is what you get. And yeah, you might get some lender incentives, which they offer all the time, despite whatever the market condition is. But this one in particular, they're at Fisher Homes, Twin Lakes community is a big, giant, like 1,000+ home community. You got different lakes and swimming and tennis amenities and beautiful community. And we offered, it was a $379 purchase price. We offered $369, and they accepted that. Yeah, and this is the I think out of about 30 new construction transactions in 9 years, not separated from the resale transactions. I've only had about 5 out of those 30 where we could offer lower and get accepted.
Wow.
And 4 of the 5 have been in the last 12 months.
That's proof right there and there. That kind of answers the question by itself. Is now you're more likely now to get a good deal than really any other time that I can remember. Yeah.
The way I always say, the motto or whatever you want to call it is just buy when you're ready. So buy when you're ready. And that could mean when we did our pre-license course in real estate, they went over the definition of what a buyer was.
Yeah.
And somebody who is ready, willing, and able. So those are the 3 adjectives. You got to think to yourself, can you answer yes to, are you ready, are you willing, and are you able? So that can mean financially, your mental mindset, and your needs, depending on your lifestyle and what's going on around you.
Yeah, and that's the nuance I would say is now a good time to buy for most people. And as a general rule, yes, but I mean that's an individual question. You have to assess your own, financial readiness, your lifestyle readiness, and all that other stuff. Right. But as a general rule, yeah, it's a good time to buy. Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's see what else we got here. What are some tips that you can share with prospective home buyers as far as preparing to buy a home? So, okay, we talked about it's a good time to buy, but let's say somebody that's preparing to buy a home, how should they prepare?
A lot of cliche things like make sure you know what you can afford. Make sure you don't just know what you're pre-approved for, but make sure you know what to expect in terms of mortgage payments, how much money will be required from you, and without the seller contributing anything towards your closing costs, so you can kind of help that or have that inform how you negotiate with your agent as well. I would say though, kind of tying into what we just talked about, one of the biggest mistakes that I see people fall into the trap of is trying to time the market, and it ends up costing them money. And I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but it's they're waiting for interest rates to drop. We saw this happen ad nauseum for the last few years, where people are as soon as the COVID interest, or when COVID was here, it was we're waiting for house values to come down to where they're more sane.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, and then they never really came back down, but interest rates did go up.
Right.
And then they're all right, now we're going to wait for interest rates to come down. and then they didn't really come down for a while, and then and home values continue to go up. And this year we got a little bit of a dip, slight.
Yeah.
That's not going to be like long-term like expectation, and like that's time. And it's cliche, but it's a cliche because it's true. Like time in the market always beats timing the market. And so like, can you afford the home? Does this fit your life in the stage that you're in? Do you think you're going to be in the home for a decent amount of time? If you can afford to buy, and then now's a great time to buy, like, but trying to time the market and adapting your life and like your decision making, waiting for the perfect timing. Like it's like a carrot in front of a donkey. I mean, it's rare when that comes along. Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned the example of the COVID mentality versus post-COVID. And so I'm laughing because bless his heart, I've got a buyer right now I'm working with that we were looking at houses. We were actively looking at houses in 2020 during COVID.
Yeah.
And we put in like an offer or two, and then we just got outbid. And then there's one where like we actually had a chance to get. He wanted to offer, and he did, and the seller was going to accept it, and he found out that the water heater was a tankless water heater, and for whatever reason he didn't want a tankless water heater.
Okay.
So he didn't buy the house. He walked away, and he kept looking, and then boom, rates started going up, and he hadn't bought a house still. It's been 5 years. And on my FMLS realtor site where I send out auto emails to a lot of clients, I could see when they log in looking at the homes that I've emailed them, and his name still pops up on, I wouldn't say a daily basis, but like 3 or 4 times a week.
Oh, wow.
So that means he's actively looking at homes for 5 years. Jeez. And he either just hadn't found the house he wants, or he knows it's too expensive, or maybe he's just doing it out of habit or hobby at this point, waiting to save up more for a down payment.
Yeah.
But that's just, and fortunately I haven't had any other buyers that have been in this situation, but just this one guy. But like, that's the kind of thing I don't want to happen to you guys. You know, if it's waiting until the right time, whatever that right time means, that you could end up be missing out on, you know, the house that's meant for you.
Yeah. There's legitimate reasons to wait to buy, like that have to do with what's your life stage, or maybe a job transition or whatever. I just don't think waiting for prices to come down or waiting for interest rates to drop are great reasons, and you're setting yourself up for frustration and failure. I think that's tankless water heater. I mean, I'm not gonna comment on that one, but
yeah, we all got our different preferences.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of time in the market, how about when it comes to interest rates? I mean, that's always a hot topic too. And I know we don't have a crystal ball, but sure, you get asked this a lot as a lender, like, where do you see the interest rate going in 2026?
Yeah, big asterisk on this. Like, I don't know for sure. There's so many different variables, but if I had to put a bet on like where interest rates are going to be in like this time next year, I would say probably in the upper 5s. That's what I think. I think probably somewhere like in the mid to upper 5s. Mid might be pushing it. It's
a small change, but not substantial.
Yeah, but I think it'll have it will have a outsized impact on what happens with the market.
Especially if we're seeing prices decrease all over Metro Atlanta to make homes more affordable. Add to that like a 5.5 interest rate, I can imagine I'll get a lot of buyers off the fence.
Yeah. I think once you have a 5 and as that first number instead of a 6 or whatever, which I mean, that's definitely available, in certain instances now for sure. But as like when you can go and see what the average interest rate, is online, you see that it's there. I think that's going to move the needle in terms of like buyers getting into the market and maybe more sellers being willing to buy and like, all right, it's not my COVID interest rate, but it's not as bad. Yeah. So,
and I see that already happening the last 3 years. I mean, there's people that you always got that category of people that they want to move as far as speculation or investment. And then you got the ones that need to move. which are like upsizing, downsizing, marriage, divorce,
Yeah.
kids, or whatnot. And despite the market conditions, they have to move.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be people like that. So like, yeah, I've seen several that I've helped already that they sold their 3% rate house to
Yeah.
go buy another house, just like upsize or whatever.
Yeah. I know it hurts, but
I mean, you went through that too, didn't you?
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
we've all been, I don't want to say we've all been through that, but I don't think any new home buyers are going to go through that ever, not to that extent. Yeah.
I would just say as a home buyer tip is like, because of the real estate environment that we're in, like buy and expect to live there at least 7+ years. Cause I think a lot of people, they think, as much it'd be great to be fluid in the market and be nimble to be able to go here and there as you want. It's not quite the environment that caters to that. So,
Yeah.
and I think the average number of years that a home buyer lives in a home now is 11 years, up from 7, which was back in 2017. So,
I didn't realize it was, I'd heard both figures before. I didn't realize it was trending up a little bit.
Trending up some, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So 10 or 11 years, something like that. Yeah, it has trended up a little bit.
Cool.
And I think I'm trying to think like we'll just go to the next question. I lost my thought, but if it comes back, I'll say it. So what the next one I heard that so this is a stat that I found a few days ago.
Yeah.
So the average age of a buyer now, first time home buyer, is 40 years old. And I think back in 2016 it was 33.
Yeah.
So it's gone up 7 years and 7 years, 8 years, 9 years.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. So yeah, my how do I feel? Not good.
Not good.
Not good. I'm not a fan. I would rather that not be the case. Yeah, I mean, if you look, I don't know if you've ever heard the older generation talk about, like, back in my day, interest rates were like 18% and stuff, which is true. But like, if you look like back in the during that time period, as like a home price was about 3.5 times your annual income. Now, like, we're well over 5, even though interest rates are well below 18%. And I don't think that trend's going anywhere, unfortunately. I don't know. And I don't think the 50-year mortgage or the portable loan or, any of that stuff's going to meaningfully like impact that. I just think that's the trend that we're in, is that wages have not kept up with home prices. And it's hard for me to see like how that's meaningfully going to change in the relatively near or midterm future. The only thing that would really impact that I can think of would be like if it just gets a lot easier to build more homes and we have an influx of inventory, which we have the opposite problem.
The inventory is going up some. I think we're seeing now out of all 50 states, 10 states now have gone up above pre-pandemic numbers.
Yeah.
And Georgia's kind of right on the cusp.
That's
depends on the area.
We had a shortage before, but what we kind of seen is like both the buyer pool and the seller pool have shrunk.
Yeah.
And so like if there's still, if interest rates get better and more people feel comfortable into getting into the market, like there's still, I feel like long term we're still going to be set. And that's one of the reasons I think now, if you are trying to time the market, this is it. Right. But I think long term, like values are going to continue to go up, and because supply and demand, and then also home values. One of the biggest drivers of home values is inflation. And so that's I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that's gonna be something that persists for a while. It's not as bad as it was, and so, but I don't see how. I think that's going to continue to be the trend. Yeah.
I got one buyer I'm working with right now. Like he's buying up all of Metro Atlanta. It seems like he's bought record 5 homes now just this year, and he's all kind of focusing on like the North Duluth, South Swanee area,
Yeah.
close to where he lives, and also just like neighborhoods that he knows like high demand, and
Yeah.
turning them into investment properties. But he told me one thing. He was like, I was like, so your rate's higher, and then in some cases the mortgage isn't even covering his,
Yeah.
the rental rate. And I was like, are you okay with that? And he's like, obviously he's a different breed of buyer with the money that he's got, but I did like this point that he made. He said, well, Tim, eventually rates will come down. And when they do, I can refinance. And then on top of that, I don't have to compete when the competition starts swarming in because I've already bought.
Yeah.
So I think that says a lot. I think that was a lot of the sentiment back in 2022, 2023 when rates did go up. But I think he's taken the right mindset about it.
Yeah.
And I know some will say, well, what if I can't even afford to begin with? And I get it, but try to other two tips that I've been giving to buyers is like venture out to other areas and cities and locations that you may have not initially thought of moving to, and maybe buy a smaller home. Maybe that square footage that you're looking for was 2,500. Maybe you gotta kind of hover around the 2,000 square foot area. Like make it a starter home that you can build equity in, catapult to the next stage in the future.
You definitely don't want to put yourself like in a precarious financial position. At the same time, you have to evaluate, and I think this is what your client was doing. He's not just looking for the next year or two. Like, what do you think rents are going to even be like 10 years, 15 years from now as well? And so, and long term, like, again, it goes back to I know it's a cliche sounding thing, but time in the market beats timing the market. And so that's true.
I'd say for the hyper local market, because I know people are watching this and they may want to know about just the overall market. So I would say I cover a lot of we're in Gwinnett, we're in Swanee right now. We're in a co-working space here, right in the middle of Swanee Town Center, very close by. And this area has been hot for many years, still is. Right next door is Johns Creek, Alpharetta, probably the hottest markets that don't seem to be fazed much by the current market shift. But everywhere else, I am seeing it. Seeing days on market going from, what used to be, 14 days, 20 days to now 50 to 70 days in some cities. Seeing the original list price versus sold price ratio would be 99%. Basically, they would sell for what they were listed for. Now it's around anywhere from 96 to as low as 92 in some cities. So again, opportunity to be had if you're in the market to buy. If you're looking to sell, the tips are you want to make sure you're listed accurately. It's move-in ready condition. We can chat about one of our friends, our insurance buddy.
Oh yeah.
And he helping him sell his house, and he bought a house, sold his house in Lawrenceville, and then bought in Stone Mountain. And he, because he's in insurance, he's in our industry. He knows what it takes to sell a house. Even I didn't have to make the suggestions to him. He already knew what to do. So what did he do? He practically gutted his house. I mean, he put in brand new, light color wood look laminate, LVP flooring on the first floor, new carpet on the second floor, new light fixtures in every room, repainted the house interior and exterior, brand new roof on the house, new fence in the backyard, extra landscaping. Another key thing for sellers, I would say you must do now is, it's not even an option, it's imperative, is do a pre-inspection. So, obviously the buyer pays for the inspection once you're under contract during due diligence, but now I recommend the sellers go ahead and do an inspection yourself. Pay the $400 because it'll be worth it. Then see what problems you do have with your home and see what you can do to fix those before you list on the market. So those tips help because buyers, they don't have much money these days. They're pickier. They're more price sensitive. So knowing that after you've heard all that we've said, take that into consideration so that you know that it needs to be move-in ready, because they have just the amount of money to get the down payment in to move in. and they don't want to spend more money on repairs. They don't have the money to spend on
Yeah.
repairs. So if you can do as much of that yourself, you're going to get it sold faster. You can get the buyer to buy your house, and you can be done, get on to the next chapter in your life.
That makes a lot of sense. I never even thought about that.
So yeah, it's just a lot of change in the market, and I don't think this is nowhere close to like a 2008 Great Recession,
No.
and
Yeah.
it's not going to even get to that. Would you say? Like, yeah,
yeah. I mean, big asterisk on everything I say. I don't know the future. I'm not, Nostradamus or anything, but no, just no. No, man. There's too many there's too many factors at play. This isn't the same as 2008.
Yeah.
There's not a bunch of really shady loans going on.
Right. There's a lot more stricter verification process.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I had to give all my tax returns to this guy and refinance and purchase of the house. So yeah, it's like got to verify those things. It's not just how much you make. I make this. Okay, you're approved. I think that's the way 2006 and 2007 were, right? Like,
yeah.
Crazy stuff like that.
And there's some really crazy stuff going on. Yeah. Yeah. Now it's a little bit more legit.
Yeah, exactly. Well, see 3 people viewing. Y'all don't be shy. Go ahead and put something in the chat. If you have a question, you can ask it. If you can't think of any, that's okay. But you can certainly ask a question later. But we'd love to hear from you. You only we're getting towards the end here, so it's kind of we've already, I guess, kind of talked about this in a different way, but that specific phrase, date the rate and marry the house.
Yeah, you and I were joking. I feel like people who are saying that are kind of feeling like they married their wife and they kind of got their in-law that won't move out now with the rate. And so that's might be a more apt analogy now, but I mean, it's like a lot of this stuff. There's some truth in that. There's a lot of truth in that, but man, don't let that cause you to buy a home that you can't afford, that you're not happy with, or make it just like buy a home that you can afford now with the current interest rates. Make a plan for when things improve, like how you're going to take advantage of that. But that it's like rules of thumb or phrase like that can be helpful in some cases, but sometimes it can be kind of a little bit oversimplistic. So and the thing is, the reality is, even what I told you, where I think interest rates are going into the 5s, like I'd be shocked if we get to where interest rates are in the 4s again. And so if you're still holding on to, much less like COVID interest rates, I don't think that's just unrealistic to expect that that's going to happen. So, I mean, I think we're probably entering into close to I don't want to say as good as it gets, because maybe it can, but more normal interest rates that aren't elevated or whatever. So that time to to take advantage of that stuff's probably coming up pretty soon.
Definitely. Well, any parting thoughts? Any other additional thoughts that you can share just about the overall market, the lending side?
I mean, I think the main it's an individual decision, and so always make sure that you are pre-approved and legitimately pre-approved, but not just that you know what your payment's going to look like, and that you're planning, you're making sure it's something that you can afford now, but also planning for the future. I mean, which is kind of a tying a bow on everything that we've said.
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree with all of that. And I guess where I would come from the real estate side, just again, kind of reiterate, just buyers, make sure you're not overspending and buy in the right area, and maybe even look at venturing out to other places you may not be accustomed to. And then, if you can, try to get a single family home, because those are better resale value. I'm getting more buyers buying townhomes now, which I'm not opposed to them either, but just want to be aware of like HOA restrictions for renting, because I find a lot of people, they want to be able to rent later for whatever reason. They can't, they're stuck with the property. I heard of a lady in Buckhead where that happened to her in the 2008 crash.
Really?
So she couldn't sell it because it wouldn't sell in that market.
Yeah.
And then she couldn't rent it because they wouldn't allow rentals, and she had to live somewhere else. So she was literally paying rent on that place,
Man.
as it was vacant. It was crazy. And that's not what we want to be in ever in this market. And I don't think we are, but yeah,
Yeah.
just want to be aware of, you're going to see yourself in that home for at least 7 years, and great, go for it.
On the single family thing, I see that a lot where people on townhomes and condos, they like the idea of everything being taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, I don't want to have to pay separately for all that stuff. But you are like paying it still. And like with that HOA fee, a lot of times, like some people think like, okay, if you're buying a home that's in a, let's say it's a 300s, it's a townhome or a condo, affordability on a monthly payment, you might be able to get a single family home that's in the 400s.
Yeah.
And, even paying that HOA fee and for the maintenance costs, like, so just make sure, again, going back to the former point, what the numbers look like. Yeah, I think that's important.
I think the perspective people need to have is like it was funny because I feel like, and tell me if you think this way too, but like 20, 25 years ago, people didn't think about resale value when they bought a home. They just focused on buying a home because they wanted to live there.
Yeah.
But now I feel like almost everybody that I work with, they're also considering resale value, which is not a bad thing. But I think sometimes it could box you in, or make you kind of have that narrow-minded approach of like, well, I must live here and not over here.
Yeah.
So
everything's a balance, you have to factor that in. It just, when it becomes like the main driver, there's so many other things that you should be considering as well.
Yeah. But if you can't afford a single family, I mean, that is better resale value.
Yeah,
and I guess in terms of like, just think about who's buying those homes. They're the ones that are families that got kids and dogs.
Yeah.
That's why they want the extra yard space, the extra house space. And who's the most qualified? Wouldn't you say, like, out of the loans that you've done, the ones that are most qualified, are they like families versus like young single professionals?
Yeah, by and large,
yeah. So because of that, what are they buying? They're buying a single family, which means they have the most demand, which means they're going to have the most resale value.
Yeah.
So I think that's another way to look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot less of those people are worried about the Fannie Mae's minimum credit score requirement.
Yeah. So much in the news. 2026 should be an interesting year. Looking forward to it, helping more clients. Sam here can take care of the loans, and y'all reach out to me. Those of you that have been following me, and those that will see this for the first time, hope it's been valuable and insightful. And again, you can ask any question, even though this live is about to end. But thank you guys for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.